Jake stood in the vast hall of the Galactic Embassy, watching as delegates from various species gathered around, exchanging information and building alliances. It was all routine for him. As a human representative in this strange, star-studded world, Jake had grown accustomed to the politics and the negotiations that seemed to never end. Yet, something always made him feel like he was an outsider. No matter how much time he spent among the aliens, he still felt like the only human. In a galaxy that had little regard for his kind, the meeting that day was crucial. The representatives of the Corans, a race of tall, blue-skinned aliens, were in attendance, and Jake had been tasked with keeping the peace. While the Corans were known for their immense strength, their temper was often unpredictable. Tensions were high, and Jake's presence was necessary to ensure things didn't escalate into conflict. As the meeting began, Jake's eyes wandered across the room until they landed on her. She was standing near the window, her posture straight and dignified, yet there was an air of sadness in her eyes. Her name was Zara, and she wasn't like the others. Zara was a member of the Solarians, a mysterious species known for their ability to manipulate energy. She was also one of the highest-ranking officers in the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Jake had met her several times before, but today, something was different. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. There was something in her eyes that caught his attention. Zara had always been an enigma, distant and unreadable. But now, she seemed troubled. As the meeting continued, Jake found himself distracted. His mind kept drifting back to Zara. Her soft, natural beauty stood in stark contrast to the cold, calculating demeanor she often showed. He noticed how she avoided eye contact with everyone, even the other Solarians. She kept to herself, always in the background, never fully involved in the discussions. Eventually, the meeting broke for a brief recess, and Jake made his way over to Zara. He wasn't sure why he was drawn to her. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, or perhaps it was the sadness in her eyes that seemed to speak of a life full of untold stories. "Zara," Jake said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you okay?" She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. For a moment there was silence between them, and Jake felt an odd tension hanging in the air. Then Zara spoke, her voice quiet yet firm. "I'm fine," she replied, though. Jake could sense that it wasn't true, just ... tired. Jake studied her for a moment, trying to gauge if she was being honest. She had always been a closed book, but there was something different about her now. Something vulnerable that she didn't usually show. "I noticed that you've been distant," Jake said, his voice gentle but firm. "Is everything all right? You don't have to do this alone." Zara's gaze shifted away from him, staring out the window as though the distant stars could offer her answers. Jake wanted to push further, but he knew better than to rush her. Zara was a private person, and if she didn't want to talk, she wouldn't. Instead, she sighed softly. "It's nothing," she said, though Jake knew better. "I just... can't." Was confused. "Can't what?" Zara finally turned back to him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and frustration. "I can't let anyone get too close. Not now, not ever." She paused as though gathering her thoughts. "It's not safe. Not for me. And definitely not for you." Jake's confusion deepened. "What do you mean? I don't understand." She looked at him then, her eyes sharp, almost challenging. "You wouldn't understand," she said coldly, her tone distant and guarded. "Humans, Solarians, or any species love is a dangerous thing. It leads to attachments, and attachments lead to pain. I can't allow myself to love anyone, not physically." Jake frowned, trying to make sense of her words. "But why? Love is ... It's a beautiful thing. It's not something you can just ... ignore." Zara's face softened for a moment, but she quickly masked it with her usual icy expression. "Not that simple, Jake," she said, her voice quieter now. "For my people, love is a weapon. If I let myself love you, or anyone, there would be consequences. Not just for me, but for everyone around me." Jake was taken aback. "Consequences? What kind of consequences?" Zara hesitated before answering. It's something I can't explain. Trust me when I say, it's better this way. I can't allow myself to feel anything for you. You deserve someone who can be with you fully. Jake felt a pang of disappointment in his chest. It wasn't like he had expected Zara to immediately fall for him. There was something about her, something raw and real, that made him want to protect her, to understand her. And now she was pushing him away, making it clear that no matter how much he might care for her, she couldn't allow it. He looked at her, his heart heavy. I don't want anyone else, Zara. I only want you. Zara stepped back, her expression cold once more. That's exactly what I mean, Jake. I can't let you want me. It's not safe. With those words, she turned and walked away, leaving Jake standing there, lost in thought. He didn't understand what she meant. Love was supposed to be a connection, something that brought people together. For Zara, it was something to be feared. And as he watched her walk away, Jake realized that the battle for her heart was just beginning. But this wasn't going to be easy, not by a long shot. The next few days were tense. Jake couldn't stop thinking about Zara. Every time he saw her, her cold, distant demeanor made him feel as though she had built an unbreakable wall around herself. She had made it clear that she couldn't love him, but he couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more to her story. Something deeper that she wasn't willing to share. They continued working together, side by side, but it was always professional. Zara would give orders, and Jake would follow them without question. They had done this countless times before, but now there was something different. A silent tension hung in the air whenever they were near each other, like two magnets pushing against each other. Unable to come together, Jake tried to focus on the mission at hand. They were stationed on a remote outpost, far from the rest of the Galactic Council. The peaceful negotiations with the Corans had been interrupted by an urgent call for help from a nearby system under attack. A war had broken out, and the peacekeepers were called in to prevent it from spreading. Jake and Zara had been assigned to a special team to lead the charge and prevent the violence from escalating further. As they boarded the ship that would take them to the front lines, Jake noticed that Zara seemed more serious than ever. She was silent, her eyes cold and calculating. For a moment, Jake wondered if she had already closed herself off from him entirely. But then something happened that made him reconsider. Zara's hand brushed his as they passed through the ship's corridor. It was a brief, accidental touch, but Jake could feel the warmth of it. His heart skipped a beat, and he glanced at Zara to see if she had noticed. But she was already walking ahead, her face unreadable. Jake wanted to say something, to break the silence between them, but he didn't know what to say. How could he explain the way he felt? How could he make her understand that he wasn't looking for anything complicated, simply wanted to be close to her? But she had made it clear that wasn't possible. As the mission wore on, Jake found himself drawn to Zara more than ever. Despite her reluctance to show any emotion, he could see the little things she did for him, the way she made sure he had food, the small smiles she gave him when they shared a joke. It was all so subtle, but Jake couldn't ignore it. There was something there, something that told him Zara cared for him in a way that she wasn't willing to admit. One night, as the team prepared for a risky operation, Zara and Jake found themselves alone in the briefing room. Yes, the others were out securing supplies, leaving them to discuss the plan. Zara stood at the window, staring out at the stars, lost in thought. Jake stood in the doorway, unsure of whether to approach her or not. Zara, he called softly. She didn't turn around, but he could see her shoulders tense. What is it, Jake? She asked, her voice clipped. I've been thinking about what you said, Jake began, walking slowly toward her, about not letting anyone get too close. I just don't understand why you keep pushing me away. Zara sighed, her eyes never leaving the stars. I've told you already, Jake. It's not just about you. It's about me. I can't let myself love anyone. I can't afford the risk. Jake took a step closer, his heart aching for her. But why? Is love such a risk? Why is it so dangerous for you? Zara's eyes finally met his, and for the first time in days, there was a flicker of something in them. Pain, maybe, or regret. She hesitated, and for a moment, Jake thought she might tell him the truth. But then she shook her head, her expression hardening again. "You don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Love. Love isn't just an emotion for my people. It's a burden, a weapon. It always ends in tragedy. Jake was confused. A weapon? What do you mean? Zara turned away, her voice tight with emotion. You don't know what it's like to be bound by something you can't control, to have your feelings twisted and used against you. Seen it happen to others? I've seen the destruction it causes. Jake reached out, but Zara stepped back, putting distance between them. You can't help me, Jake. No one can. That's why I have to stay away. If I let myself love you, I'll destroy you. It's not just about what I feel, it's about what love can do. Jake's heart sank. He was so scared, so broken by her own past, that she couldn't see what was right in front of her. He could see the struggle in her eyes, the battle between wanting to be close to him and the fear of what it would cost. I'm not afraid of you, Zara, Jake said softly, his voice firm. I'm not afraid of loving you. I've made my choice. I want to be with you no matter what. Zara shook her head, her eyes filling with tears she quickly wiped away. You don't understand. Can't understand. I won't let you. Silence that followed was heavy, filled with unsaid words and unspoken truths. Jake could feel the weight of it pressing on him, but he didn't know how to break through to her. He couldn't just give up on her not, when he could see how much she cared. But for now, Zara's walls remained intact. And as the night stretched on, Jake knew that their journey was far from over. The battle ahead would be nothing compared to the one they would have to face within themselves. The mission had become more complicated than Jake had ever imagined. They were in the middle of a war zone now, surrounded by hostile forces on all sides. The peaceful negotiations they had once hoped for were long gone, replaced by conflict and chaos. The calm atmosphere that had surrounded them before seemed like a distant memory Jake couldn't help but think about. Zara. The walls she had built around herself were becoming harder to ignore. She was always there, always by his side, giving orders, coordinating the strategy, but there was something in her eyes that told a different story. Despite her cold exterior, Jake could see the turmoil brewing inside her. Their unit had just completed a dangerous operation. They were now stationed at an outpost on a hostile planet, trying to regroup and prepare for the next move.
Jake
Had been busy sorting through the mission's aftermath, but his mind kept drifting back to Zara. It was late that evening when Jake found himself walking through the darkened halls of their temporary base. His thoughts were filled with questions about Zara and the strange distance between them. She had told him many times that she couldn't love him. But Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at play. As he passed the command center, he saw Zara standing alone, her figure illuminated by the soft glow of the control panels. She was staring at the map of the surrounding area, her mind clearly elsewhere. Without thinking, Jake approached her. Zara, he said quietly, trying not to startle her. She turned at the sound of his voice, her expression unreadable. Jake, she replied coolly, as if their previous conversations had never happened. Jake hesitated but then spoke from his heart. I need to know, Zara. Why won't you let yourself love me? I can't understand it. We've been through so much together. There has to be more to it than just this distance. Zara's face tightened, and she looked away from him, focusing on the map again. I've told you, Jake, it's not that simple. Love is dangerous. It's a risk I can't take. Jake stepped closer, his heart pounding. I don't care about the risks. I care about you. You don't have to shut me out. We can figure this out together. For the first time, Zara looked at him with something other than coldness. There was a flicker of sadness in her eyes, something raw and vulnerable. I can't, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jake was quiet for a moment, unsure of what to say. He wanted to take her hand, to comfort her, but he knew she would push him away. He could feel the pain in her words, but he couldn't understand it. Why was she so afraid to let herself love? Why couldn't she trust that it wouldn't destroy her? Zara, he said softly, taking a deep breath. You don't have to be afraid. Love isn't a weapon. It doesn't have to destroy us. She shook her head, the sadness in her eyes deepening. You don't know what it's like. Jake, you don't know what it feels like to have everything you care about ripped away from you because of love. My people, ... my species. We don't have the luxury of loving freely. We've learned that love only brings pain. Jake felt a pang in his chest. He didn't fully understand what Zara meant, but he could feel the weight of her words. There was so much she had been through, so much she carried that she had never shared with him. He wanted to help her, but he didn't know how. Tell me, Jake said gently, his voice full of empathy. Zara, I want to understand. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Zara looked at him, and for a moment, Jake saw a glimpse of the woman she could be. A woman who longed to be free from the burden of her own fears. But then the mask came down again, and she stepped back, shaking her head. I can't, Jake. I can't let myself love you. Not like this. You deserve someone who can be with you fully. I can't give you that. And if you keep pushing, I'll only hurt you. Jake's heart broke at her words. He wanted to argue, to tell her that she was wrong, that love wasn't about being perfect. But he could see in her eyes that she was already so afraid, so deeply convinced that loving her was a dangerous choice. You're wrong, Jake said firmly, stepping closer to her once again. I don't want anyone else, Zara. I only want you. I don't care about the risks. I don't care about the consequences. I care about you. Zara took a deep breath, trying to push him away with her gaze. You don't understand, Jake. You think you want me, but you don't. This isn't just about us. This is about what happens when love is unleashed. It's about what my people have suffered. And it's about what I fear I'll bring into your life if I let myself feel. Jake felt a deep sadness wash over him. I don't care about what anyone else says, Zara. I care about you. I don't want to lose you, but I can't stand seeing you push me away anymore. Zara turned her back to him, her voice low. Then you'll just have to let me go, Jake. You'll have to learn to accept that I can't love you the way you want me to. You'll have to learn to live without me. For a moment, there was nothing but silence between them. Jake stood, there feeling the weight of her words. He didn't want to lose her, but it felt like that was exactly what was happening. And no matter how much he tried to convince her, he knew that Zara's walls were still too strong. The days that followed were some of the hardest Jake had ever faced. The mission, though important, felt like a blur. As they moved through hostile territories, tensions ran high. The galaxy was on the edge of war, and Jake's job was to keep the peace. But even with the chaos of battle, his thoughts were always with Zara. Zara, despite her cold exterior, never let her guard down. She was always in control, always the leader. Jake could see the way the others followed her every word, how they trusted her with their lives. But with him, with Jake, she was a different person, distant, cold, and untouchable. It was as if she had sealed herself in a cage that she refused to let him into. He didn't understand it. Every time he tried to break through, she pushed him away. But what bothered him the most was the way she refused to let anyone else near him. It was as though she had claimed him in some unspoken way. While keeping herself at a distance, Jake spent the next few days observing Zara. He noticed how she avoided physical contact with everyone, even when it was necessary. The others would often slap each other on the back or offer a hand to help up after a tough mission, but Zara never did. And when it came to him, she was even more distant. She would give orders, discuss plans, but there was never a touch. Never. A smile that lingered too long one evening. After a particularly difficult mission where they had narrowly escaped an ambush, Jake and Zara found themselves in the ship's medical bay. Zara had been injured during the attack, though it was nothing too serious. A few scrapes and bruises were nothing compared to what she had faced before. Still, Jake couldn't help but worry. She never seemed to take care of herself, always. Putting others first, he entered the medical bay to check on her, hoping for a moment of connection, but as usual, she kept her distance. She was sitting on a table, her arm wrapped in bandages, her face stoic as ever. You should rest, Jake said, trying to keep his voice gentle. You've been pushing yourself too hard. Zara didn't look up at him. Instead, she kept her gaze focused on her injury, her expression unreadable. I'm fine, she said curtly, not meeting his eyes. Jake's frustration boiled over. You're not fine, Zara. You need to take care of yourself. I can't keep watching you do this. Finally looked up at him, her eyes cold and distant. You don't understand, she said, her voice low but firm. I have to be strong. If I'm not, everyone else suffers. You don't need to worry about me. Jake stepped closer, feeling the distance between them stretch with each word. I don't care about what's best for the mission. I care about you. You're not some weapon to be used, Zara. You're a person. Zara's eyes darkened, and she turned her gaze away from him. I told you already, Jake. I can't love you. Can't let anyone love me. It's not just about you. It's about me and what I'm capable of. I can't allow myself to feel anything. Jake was silent for a long time. Her words hit him harder than he had expected. He understood that Zara's past was complicated, that her species had rules and traditions that he could never fully understand. But what he couldn't understand was why she was so unwilling to let anyone in, especially him. Zara, I'm not asking you to change, Jake said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm not asking for some perfect love. I just want to be there for you, to help you through whatever this is. You don't have to do this alone. Zara's face softened for a brief moment, but she quickly masked it with her usual expression of detachment. You don't understand, she repeated, shaking her head. You don't know what it's like to have everything you love destroyed because of a single mistake. I can't let that happen again. I can't let you be the one to suffer because of me. Jake's heart ached as he watched her struggle. He wanted to reach out to comfort her, but every time he got close, she pushed him away. It was as though she was afraid that any sign of affection would destroy them both. Zara, please, Jake said, his voice filled with raw emotion. I don't want to lose you. I don't care what the consequences are. I just want to be with you. She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes filled with something that Jake couldn't quite place. Fear, regret, he couldn't be sure. But whatever it was, it made her turn away from him. You don't get to make that decision for me, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I'm the one who has to live with the consequences. I'm the one who has to live with the fear of losing everything. I can't let myself love you, Jake. Not now. Not ever. Jake wanted to argue, to tell her that love wasn't something to fear, that it wasn't always about loss. But in that moment, he realized that no matter how much he cared for her, he couldn't force her to feel the same way. Zara was locked in her own battle, one that Jake couldn't fight for her. She stood up, her back turned to him. I'm sorry, Jake. I can't let you in. Not like this. Jake stood there, feeling helpless and defeated. He didn't know what to do, how to fix things. All he wanted was to break down the walls she had built around herself. But Zara wasn't ready to let anyone in, least of all him. As he watched her walk away, Jake realized that this battle was far from over. But the question was, would Zara ever be ready to let herself love him? And if she wasn't, could he ever let her go? The tension between Jake and Zara was becoming unbearable. Days passed in silence, the kind that built walls between them even when they were in the same room. Zara remained distant, locked inside her self-imposed prison. She carried out her duties as if nothing had changed. But Jake could see it, her eyes told a different story. The mission had reached a critical point. They were deep in enemy territory now, facing a hostile force that outnumbered them. It was a mission that would determine the future of the galaxy's peace efforts. If they failed, it wouldn't just be a loss for their side. It would mean war, an endless war that would tear everything apart. Jake and Zara were leading their team once more. But the weight of the situation seemed to be pressing harder on Zara. He could feel it. The way her movements had become more rigid, her commands more terse. She was trying to remain in control, but the strain was visible to anyone who paid attention as they prepared for the final assault. Jake noticed something he hadn't seen before. Zara wasn't just avoiding him, she was avoiding everyone. She barely spoke to the rest of the crew, her interactions with them limited to what was strictly necessary. It was as if she had completely shut herself off from the world. Jake couldn't stay silent anymore. He couldn't let Zara carry this burden alone. It wasn't just the mission that mattered to him anymore. It was her, that night, after the team. had finished preparing their equipment, Jake found her sitting alone in the observation deck. The stars outside were beautiful, but there was no comfort in them. Zara sat with her back to him, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. He approached her slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Zara," he said softly. She didn't turn to face him, but he could see the way her shoulders tensed. "Jake," she replied, her voice cold. "What do you want?" Wanda sat down next to her, keeping some distance, but not enough to make her feel alone. "I need to talk to you." Zara. "I can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I can see you pulling away from everyone. You're not the same person I met when we started this mission. What happened to you?" Zara took a deep breath, her gaze still fixed on the stars. "What do you expect me to say, Jake? That I'm fine? That I can handle everything when I can't even handle myself?" Jake was quiet for a moment. He didn't want to push her too hard, but he also knew he couldn't let this go on. "I don't want you to handle everything alone. You don't have to. You never have to." Zara finally turned to face him. Her expression hardened. "Don't understand," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You don't know what it's like to be forced to shut yourself off from the world, to love someone and have that love become a weapon. It's a weapon that can destroy everything you care about. I've seen it happen before, Jake. I've seen it destroy people I loved. I can't let that happen to you." Jake reached out, his hand trembling as he placed it gently on her arm. "Zara, I don't want to be just another person you push away. I'm here for you, no matter what. I don't care about the risks. Care about you." Zara pulled away from him sharply, standing up and walking a few steps away. "You don't understand," she repeated, her voice more strained now. "I can't let you in, Jake. I can't let you love me. It will ruin everything. I will ruin you." Jake stood up too, his frustration growing. "I don't care about the consequences. You're not a weapon, Zara. You're a person. You deserve love. You deserve happiness. You don't have to carry this alone." Zara's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away, not wanting Jake to see her weakness. "You don't know what it's like. You think you want me, but you don't. I'm not someone you can love. I'm not someone you can be with. I will only destroy you." "Zara, that's not true," Jake said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I want to be with you. I don't care about the risks. I don't care if you think you'll destroy me. I love you, and I'm not going to give up on you." For a moment, there was silence between them. The weight of her words hung in the air like a thick fog. Jake could see the battle raging inside her, the fear of losing control, the fear of loving and being loved. But he also saw something else. He saw the part of her that wanted to be free, the part that longed to let go of her fear. "I can't." "Jake," Zara whispered, her voice breaking. "I can't let myself love you. Not when I know what it can do." Jake took a step forward, closing the distance between them. "I won't let fear control us, Zara. I can't lose you. Not when I know how much you mean to me. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Zara's eyes filled with tears once again, but this time she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall freely, the weight of everything she had been holding back finally breaking through. For the first time, she let herself feel. She let herself be vulnerable in front of him. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm scared of what will happen if I let myself love you. But I'm even more scared of losing you." Jake gently cupped her face, in his hands, tilting her head up so their eyes met. "I don't have to be scared anymore, Zara. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm not giving up on you." That moment, Zara finally allowed herself to let go. She leaned into his touch, her body trembling as she wrapped her arms around him. It was a small step, but it was a step toward something more. Toward the love they both so desperately needed. The mission still loomed ahead, and the war still raged around them. But for the first time in what felt like forever, they weren't alone. They had each other. The days that followed were some of the hardest Jake and Zara had ever faced. The war was closing in on them, and the stakes had never been higher. Their mission was still not complete, and with every passing hour, it seemed as though the enemy was drawing nearer. But despite the chaos around them, there was something different now. There was a bond between Jake and Zara that neither of them could ignore. Jake had never been more certain of anything in his life. He had fought for her, pushed for her to let go of the walls she had built around herself. And now he was seeing the first signs of her letting him in. Zara, for all her strength, was still human in her own way. She had vulnerabilities, she had fears, and for the first time, she was allowing someone to help carry that weight. But even with this newfound closeness, Zara still struggled. She had confessed her fears, admitted the pain of loving, and yet there was still a part of her that couldn't fully let go. It was that part that scared Jake the most, the part that believed love could destroy everything. They were alone again. It's time on a quiet evening before the final assault. The rest of the team was preparing for the battle, checking equipment and going over final strategies, but Jake and Zara found themselves in a moment of silence. The tension in the air was thick, but the space between them seemed smaller now, more familiar. Zara sat on the edge of a bench, her back straight and her posture rigid. But there was something different about her, something softer. Though she refused to show it, Jake sat down beside her, careful not to crowd her but close, enough to let her know he was there. They sat in silence for a long moment, listening to the distant sounds of the bass and the low hum of the ship's engines. "You've been quiet," Jake said, breaking the silence. "More than usual." Zara didn't look at him. "I'm thinking," she replied. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, a sharpness that he had come to associate with her inner battles. "About the mission?" Jake asked. "About everything," she answered, finally turning her gaze toward him. Her eyes were tired, haunted by the weight of decisions she had made long before he had ever met her. "About us." Jake's heart skipped a beat. It had been, waiting for her to talk about this, but the words felt like they were hanging in the air, heavy and unspoken. "Zara, you don't have to keep holding back. I've told you before. I'm not going anywhere." She let out a slow breath, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "You think it's that simple?" Her voice cracked, and for the first time Jake saw a tear slip down her cheek. "I've spent my entire life protecting myself. I've kept my distance because I was afraid of losing everything I care about, and I've always been alone. Jake, alone in this, alone in the pain." Jake reached out, his hand gently touching hers. It was a small gesture, but it felt like the world had shifted. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "You don't have to carry it all by yourself. You have me." Zara stared at their joined hands for a long moment, as if unsure what to do. She had always pushed people away, even when she didn't want to. But now, she didn't pull her hand back. She let him hold it, and in that moment, she allowed herself to feel something she had been fighting for so long. "I've never let anyone in." "Jake," she whispered, her voice full of uncertainty. "I don't know if I can." Jake squeezed her hand. "You don't have to know. We'll figure it out together, one step at a time." Zara's eyes searched his face, as if trying to read him, to figure out if this was real. She had spent so much time believing she wasn't worthy of love, that love was too dangerous for her, for anyone she cared about. But Jake had proven her wrong. He had fought for her, not just in battle, but in every quiet moment when he was there for her, when he refused to give up. "I'm scared, Jake," Zara said, her voice barely audible. "Scared of what will happen if I let myself feel. Scared that I'll hurt you, that I'll ruin everything." Jake's heart ached for her. "Zara, you can't control everything. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And right now, I just want to be here with you. I don't care about the past or the mistakes we might make. I care about us, about what we can have together." Zara blinked away more tears, but her expression softened. "I don't know if I deserve that," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I deserve you." Jake shook his head. "You deserve everything, Zara. You just need to believe that." For a long time, they sat there in silence. But this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't full of tension. was filled with understanding, with the weight of what they had both been through, and the possibility of what they could become. Zara finally leaned her head against Jake's shoulder, a small but significant sign that she was letting go. Just a little as they prepared for the battle ahead, neither of them knew what the future would bring. The war was still ongoing, and the risks were still high. But now they had each other, and that was enough. The next morning, as the team geared up for the final assault, Jake and Zara stood side by side. There was still uncertainty in the air, but there was something else to hope. Hope that they could face whatever was coming together. Zara looked at Jake one last time before they joined the rest of the team. She gave him a small but meaningful smile, a silent promise that things between them had changed. And for the first time, Zara allowed herself to believe in that promise. Let me know if you'd like any changes, or if you'd like to continue with the next part.